Hello, and welcome to another indie game dev interview. And today with me is Will Sterling from Lavaboots, which is the developer of Salt on
All right, thanks for
Steam.
having me, man.
Yeah, and how are you?
Doing good, doing good. Happy to be here.
Nice. So I break the ice in the beginning of the show by asking two questions, and you have a choice of which questions you want to answer. You can answer both if you want.
Okay.
So top five games of all time, or what you've been playing recently.
Oh man,
Yeah, I know the first one is a bit
the first one's a better question, but harder to answer.
right.
Uh, yeah, I could definitely think of like maybe top three of all time. I don't know, five would be hard. I'll take a stab at the first one though. Okay. Probably my number one game of all time would probably be Morrowind.
Ooh, nice. How many
Yeah.
hours did you put into that?
I don't know. That was before you could track them, you know. So I
I'm
yeah
guessing four
I have.
digits. I have a feeling.
Oh yeah, I played that for a long time, and I even, when they released graphics overhaul mods and stuff,
Right.
I even installed those and went back to them. Red Dead Redemption is up there
Oh,
really
nice
high.
choice.
Yeah,
Nice choice.
that's a pretty fantastic game.
You heard the
Uh,
rumors?
no, what rumors?
It was rumored that a map was leaked of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh really? Well, surely
Yeah.
they'll make one. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be very profitable for them to
Oh
do it.
yeah. Hopefully
It'd be
they
a great
hopefully they
game.
release it on PC.
Yeah, I know that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'd say probably Dark Souls is up there pretty high.
Hmm.
That's I really like. I've actually, to kind of answer the second question, Dark Souls 3 I just beat, so I've been playing that a good bit. Those are top three that come to mind. Kind of hard to think of two others. Uh, I don't know. I mean, there's so many good games. I love all the Elder Scrolls games, so Oblivion, Skyrim, and
Right.
all the Fallout games.
Do
So,
you like the Fallout? Alright, Fallout. Yeah.
yeah, I love open world. If it's an open world game, I'm pretty much probably gonna play it.
Have you played the Witcher 3?
Yeah, I loved it. That
Yeah.
that would actually probably be up there.
Right.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
game's fantastic.
Not a lot of modern games are up there for me, but Witcher 3,
Yeah,
yeah, just took me a few hours to know that it's one of the best games I've ever played.
it's
It's
they. I
crazy
don't
well
know.
made.
Yeah, somehow they did a tremendous job of having a really big open world, but also of it feeling really emotional and in depth. Those
Yeah,
don't often go together.
the story and the quest design was amazing.
Oh yeah,
The
really
quest
well
design
done.
was like I was caring for freaking side
Yeah,
quest farmers and shit. I'm like, what?
yeah.
This is
You
not
couldn't
how a
even.
game's supposed to make me feel.
Yeah, like I thought it was so cool that I couldn't tell the difference in quality between a side quest or like a main
Oh yeah.
quest. It was all just top notch. I thought, man, that's
And
so
I
good.
like that you can stumble upon a quest and
Mm,
finish it even before you get the quest giver to give it to you. That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
It's really well done.
I'm playing Dragon Age Inquisition and it doesn't have that mechanic.
Yeah, I couldn't finish Dragon Age, but I liked it. What do you think of it so far?
Inquisition,
Yeah,
it took a long time to get good. For me,
yeah,
it took about the 22-hour mark
yeah.
where you get the second stronghold. That's
Hmm. I was thinking about going back through it and skipping all the little side quests because they got a
yeah,
little
I think it'll help.
tedious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm doing a lot of side quests just to get stronger and stuff. But I'm a huge fan of the first Dragon Age Origins and the
yeah,
expansion.
me too.
Yeah,
That was really
such a
good.
it's probably up there for me.
Yeah, that was a great game.
The good BioWare RPGs. My favorite parts are always the dialogue systems. It's not really like the combat and stuff. It's the dialogue and the
Yeah,
conversations. Those are
yeah,
my favorite parts.
they're really well done. I don't know,
Yeah,
they make all the character choices really interesting.
yeah. It's crazy amount of hours and money to
I
make
can,
this kind of stuff.
yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah. So yeah. Tell us a bit about yourself. Are you doing this full time? And how did you get into game development?
Yeah, I'm doing this full time. Well, I've been a gamer for a long time, and I'm also a musician. So I do a lot of audio engineering work, like mixing and mastering, recording, things like that. And a couple of friends of mine went to school for computer science, and they decided to start making a game. And I decided to jump in and help them do all the sound effects, music, and then I kind of got into game design. And so we've been working on this now for a couple of years, and I just kind of fell into it. It wasn't something I really planned on doing for a long time, but it ended up being something that I really enjoy doing. It's pretty fun.
Nice. And and tell us about Lava Boots. How many people are in it, and like how did you guys meet?
Yeah, so there's only three of us. There's me and then John and Robert Gamble. They're brothers, and we've all been friends growing up. And we got the name Lava Boots because the first game that John ever made was a little 2D side scroller where you had to like jump on these pillars and not fall in lava. Just one of those little fast paced, fun, short little games. And he called it Lava Boots, so we named the company that. So yeah, we're only three guys, and this is our technically Salt is our first commercial game. So
Right. So pretty big game for a first commercial game.
yeah, that's why we did procedural generation. Yeah, so algorithms can make a lot of it.
Right. And the brothers are the one that code the algorithms in.
Yeah, John worked on the game probably for close to a year, if not more, by himself first. He
Right.
basically got the island generation system and the waves and the ocean good to go, and then we jumped in and started actually helping add in content. So,
Right, right. So yeah, tell the people listening like what's your role in the studio.
so the main work I do is going to be write like any of the lore you find in the game, things like that. I write most of those. I write a large part of the quests, design a lot of the items, and then any sounds or music that you hear in the game, I do that as well.
Right. And where did the idea and inspiration come from
I
for
think
Salt?
uh, like we're all of us have been pretty big fans of open world games, and I was just thinking, one day we were just kind of talking. I was just thinking it would be really neat if you had a game that was centered around you traveling on an ocean, going from island to island, and it could be. We just thought we should make it infinite, so you can go forever. And these islands can have all these different loot and RPG elements. And so we kind of just had a base idea, and then just ran with that. And over
Right.
time, we've just been adding more and more to it.
Did you guys come up with a prototype first or something that you show off to like some game devs?
No, we just thought let's work on it as long as we can till we have no more money, and then we'll release it on Steam Early Access. And so
Right.
that's pretty much what we did.
Was Kickstarter not an option?
The reason we didn't do Kickstarter is because we didn't want people to feel like they were giving us money and not getting anything instantly in return for it.
Right.
And so we felt like Kickstarter was more like, hey, give us your money and eventually you'll get to play this. Whereas with early access, we felt like it's more like, okay, you can help fund it, but you get something right now that you can play. So we kind of thought early on we wouldn't do the Kickstarter route. We just hold out as long as we could and do early access. So.
Um, so this question is not really about Salt, but what's your opinion on if a game had got a Kickstarter, it was successful, and then it got released on early access? Do you think that's totally fair?
Yeah, I don't know. It's fair is a hard thing to say because
Right.
I mean, the whole indie game industry is just like it's kind of funny. I feel like sometimes early access is more controversial than Kickstarter.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Even though I feel like at least with early access you get something
You
right
get something
away.
in return. Right.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it definitely seems to. I feel like as a developer, if you run a Kickstarter, if you're not explicitly stating it, you're implying that what you're asking for will fund the game. So I think if you were going to do an early access release, I think that would need to be explicitly stated in the Kickstarter to state this money is being funded to get to an early access release. Because otherwise, if you didn't say that, that would kind of confuse people, I think.
So there's no actual like story, right? There's lore, like lore items I can read, but there's no like. Is there a story in it? Like
There
for Salt
is there is a story where actually our next update will be adding the last of that in. But we wanted
Nice.
the story to kind of be there as kind of like if you want to do it, you can, but it's not like forces you to do it. So there are ways you can start the main quest, and your little quest journal will update, and you can go through an entire main quest line that has a mini story to it. But
Right.
that's I think our strong points are designing interesting things to find in the world and things like that. I don't think our strong points are in story writing or anything like that. And so we wanted to include that, but we didn't want to put an enormous amount of time into it or anything.
Hmm. What? Why did you feel the need to have that in like the story parts?
I think it I think it gives a sense of objective for players that want it.
Right.
When we started Salt, we kind of had this idea of what we called play style focus, and what we did is we wanted to appeal to a lot of different play styles. So if you wanted to be a hunter stealth person, you could do that. Or if you wanted to just barge in, you could do it. Or if you wanted to explore, relax, and fish, you could do it. And I think a lot of players like some sense of objective. So we thought, well, we'll add in, a sort of a main quest line for that sense of completion if you want that. But it's totally optional.
Right. Did you feel forced to put it in?
Not really. I think we had already started adding in small side quests, and we thought, it'd be kind of neat to have, a main story. But I do think there is a little pressure there because Salt is kind of one of those games where I think you have to spend a decent amount of time to really realize how much there is to do. If you play
Right.
it for like a couple hours, you may feel like, oh, this is empty. I'm just going island to island. And so I
Right.
thought that maybe having a main story would be a good way to let players know that there's more content, and this could kind of walk them through some of that content that they may not have found otherwise.
Right. And I'm not sure I'm not sure how accurate your answer can be, but since you're updating the game very regularly, right? And
Yeah.
you as developers you get numbers for Steam refunds, right? Did you
Yeah.
see a drop in refund requests after a certain update?
I've never noticed a trend, although I haven't really looked for a trend.
Right.
Refunds, well, Steam enabled refunds back early summer or sometime
Yeah.
around there. I
Yeah.
can't remember when it was last year. And so, we monitored refunds, and the main thing we were looking for was, um, what kind of comments or what it was that we weren't communicating well enough or what
Right.
we weren't doing well enough or something we could improve upon. But I haven't really looked for a trend in a decrease in refund updates. But I do think that um, we have a hard balance to strike where we want players to feel like they're free and they're not their hand isn't being held. They can go do whatever they want, but also kind of letting them know that there are interesting things to find. Because sometimes if you read negative reviews, a lot of them are, I explored 3 or 4 islands, I didn't find anything. There's nothing else to the game, so I returned it. And we kind of want players to realize that there is more if you keep going. So yeah, that's a struggle, I think.
Hmm. So most of my interviews have been done with their game is either on Kickstarter or
Mm,
just about to release, so not released yet. They don't really have enough numbers,
yeah.
not enough a sample size. But what do you feel? How do you feel about Steam refunds? Like, were the feedbacks helpful, or was it just
Yeah.
like I didn't like the game and
I think well, you definitely get a lot of refunds that I mean you get accidental purchases, however that happens. You get and you do get a lot of like I didn't like the game. You get a lot of the game didn't look like I thought it would. There's graphical issues, things like that. One
hmm,
thing we did and we have had since we released it was actually we included a demo.
right,
Um, and we did that because we didn't back it wasn't easy to get a refund before Steam enabled that
right,
feature, and we didn't want to feel like we didn't want to feel like we were taking people's money, so we thought a demo was a good way for them to test the game and see if it's for you or not. But yeah, I think most of it comes from uh, refunds mostly come from it just not being what they expected. You know what I mean?
so was the demo out before refunds?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right, hmm,
we've had the demo out ever since we released the game. So
right. Talking about a demo, like how where do you put the line? Because your game is so huge, and
yeah,
if you give too little features, then people think like there's not much to do in the game. If you
yeah.
get too much, then it's like you're giving
Mm.
away for free.
Yeah, that was a hard balance
How
to
do you
strike.
balance that?
We basically what we did is there's a certain like distance you can go from the starting island on the demo,
Right.
and then it'll quit spawning islands, and
Mm,
it'll still let you sell the ocean, but it'll pop up this little thing that says to spawn more islands, you can buy the game, and here's all the features that are included. So the demo allows you, I think, to get a feel for whether or not it's the type of game for you.
right.
Um, you can do some of the basic hunting, you'll fight some pirates and things like that. So hopefully we've struck a good balance to make the player want more, but that's hard to know.
Right. Because if it's a level based game, you can just give the first couple of levels or something, then
Yeah,
it's easy to cut.
Yeah, exactly. We just limited how many islands could spawn.
Right.
So
That's a pretty
they
good
get
way
a
to do it.
feel. Yeah, they get a feel for the game and they get a feel for the momentum, I guess. Um, and then they can kind of, if they want more, then they kind of feel a little more justified probably in their purchase.
Right. And how did you guys come up with the art style? That's actually I remember seeing the trailer when it was just coming up,
Mm,
and the first thing that caught my eye, like most other games, is the art
yeah.
style because it looks really cool.
Oh,
Like
thanks. Yeah.
how did you guys come up with that? Why did you guys think that art style would work? That very like low poly, very colorful.
Yeah. Uh, Um, well, I'm glad that you like the art style. It's both hated and loved. You
Yeah,
know,
I like stylized stuff. So
yeah, some people love it, some hate it. But one of the reasons that we did that is because none of us are graphic artists or 3D artists. And
mm,
so we knew early on there was that an attempt to make the game look realistic would just end up not looking good.
right.
And so we thought, well, instead of it looking generic and not looking good, let's make it more stylized. And we kind of used some inspiration from games like Wind Waker,
Right.
things like that. And yeah, we just made it real colorful, and we tried to stick to that. And it does actually make it kind of stand out, which I like.
Yeah. So how do you even begin designing such an open-ended game? Like,
Yeah.
where do you even where do you start? Like, if there's a new guy that says he wants to create an open world survival game, where should that person start?
Yeah. I think for us, it started in gameplay. I think we felt like whatever you did needed to feel good and it needed to be fun. It needed to have an addictive quality to it.
Right.
I do not like clunkiness or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that in
Mm-hmm.
games. I like games to feel satisfying. Even if you're doing something repetitive or boring, it still needs to feel satisfying to do it. And so I think early on we got our basic concept down, and then we thought, okay, we've got the islands generating. Now let's put something on them so people can do stuff, and we just kind of kept adding on top of that. We kind of just kept adding on and adding on, adding on. I think for our next game, one thing we're actually looking forward to is being able to spend more time on design early on. This game, we kind of just did it as we went. Um, like I said, we got the game to a certain state, and then we just kind of kept thinking, oh, it'd be cool if we added merchant styles. Let's do that. It'd be cool if we had quests. Let's do that. Or it'd be cool if we had a new ship, and we just kind of kept adding and kept adding. So that's kind of how it's gotten where it is now.
Right. And okay, I'm just gonna jump into the early access stuff because that's the most interesting part to me. Like
Yeah,
you
sure.
you said you kept adding stuff. How do you because when you go into early access, there's a danger of just being forever in early access. Do you
Yeah.
think? How do you break
Oh
out
yeah.
of that? Like, and how do you fight that scope creep?
Yeah. I think well, I think it's real hard too for a game like Salt because Salt is a game that could go in a million directions, and all types of different players want a lot of different things from it. Some people want it to be a naval action game, some want it to be
Right.
pure survival, some want it to be RPG. And so there's so many elements, but we only got three guys, and you've got limited money, time, things
Right.
like that. I think I think what you kind of have to do is I think you have to come up with a list of things like priorities and things you want in the game that like these have to be in. Like I have to do these. And then you figure out of that list which ones if you had to you were willing to cut and you
Mm,
and you prioritize and cuz you definitely have to have a deadline but it's a hard balance cuz you want to I think it's easy, and we see that in games all the time where I think developers say we're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and this,
right. Right.
and then things get cut. And as a developer, I totally understand that, and it's hard to. There are updates where we think it'll take months and it takes a couple weeks, and there are updates where we think it'll take a couple weeks and it takes months. So it's hard
Mm.
to balance that out.
So, how do you balance your own ideas and vision
Mm.
versus player input? Because big part
Yeah,
of early access is getting player input, right? So how do you
yeah,
balance that?
yeah. That's a difficult that's a difficult thing to do. I think we have a sort of core vision for the game of what we want it to be at its core. And if ideas help us get there, and then we take those into account. And there are a lot of things that that ideas that have come, from players that we just hadn't thought of that we loved and just did. And then there's things that just don't work. And so sometimes you kind of have to take all the suggestions that and feedback that comes from the community and figure out what fits within the core vision of the game and what'll help it get there. And if it helps it get there, then I think it's constructive and you can figure out a way to use it. If it doesn't, then you have to just sort of try to explain that aspect, which can be hard, but
Yeah, because you have to give your own feedback to the players giving feedback, right?
yeah. So like a lot of times you have feedback too that isn't even necessarily like something we don't want to do. It's just something that ended up not being fun. For example, we have a lot of people request that you be able to cut down trees. And we were originally going to do that. And then we realized that there were thousands of trees on islands
Right.
and that it would completely throw the resource balance off and it would encourage the player to just spend all their time on like one island, instead of going around. So there are ideas like that you have to kind of say, hey, that's a good idea, but it ended up not working because so and so, so we're not going to do that. So there's that. You have to kind of be responsive to players. But they're actually, I think that players are actually very helpful and understanding, even when you tell them no. I think
Right.
they just want to know that they're heard and that developers care about what they have to say.
Mm. Where do you guys find the time? Like, who's the business guy? Who talks to these people?
We kind of all do. That's another big hat that I wear is
Right. Right.
like social media, community management type stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
try to read every day on the subreddit or the discussions, and if there's something that needs to be responded to or someone asks a question, we try to hop on and answer them, even if it's something small, because I think that's really helpful, especially for early access. People want to see that developers are still involved in the game, and aren't abandoning it, things like that.
And do you have a fear of your game being on early access and players will get bored of the game before it even comes out,
Mhm.
the full release? I mean,
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of fears too because this is just our first game. So
right,
if you've never done this before, we've never had a release on Steam, like a full release. And
right,
so we had never had an early access release. So you don't really know what to expect. I do think I think there's a large portion of people who, have already bought the game. But I also think there's a large portion of people who just don't buy early access, flat out. And so I think you kind of have that group too that you can show your game to once it's released. Because I've seen a lot of people
right.
that say, "Wow, this game looks awesome. I'll buy it when it exits early
So,
access."
so technically, there's two audience, right, for early access games. One is the people willing to put in
Yeah,
money into early access, and the people that are waiting for it to come out, full
yeah.
release.
I didn't even think about it till recently, but I think I'm sometimes one of those persons that doesn't buy early access, like not strictly, but I realize that often I just skim over it when I see that, and so I think that there's a lot of players like that. So.
Right. Um, what are some of the ideas from players that you guys incorporated into the game? Like some of the
Uh,
good ones or the big ones, or any
well,
like huge game changing ideas?
our recently we added in a ability to create in-game maps like charts. And
Mm.
someone had actually created an app to do that, and we thought it basically does the exact same thing except out of the game. And
Oh,
we
you mean a
loved that
mobile
idea.
app? You mean?
Well, no, like just an application you could download on your
Oh,
computer.
all right,
Uh,
right.
Although a mobile app would have been nice too.
Yeah.
But we liked that idea for the mapping system, and so we pretty much integrated the same type of thing. And we get a lot of ideas for items and stuff that we implement. It's kind of hard to think of specific things. There's so many suggestions that come up all the time, and most of them are repeats. Like if you go to our on our discussion boards, we have like a pinned topic for suggestions, and there's like I don't know 800 pages or something. I don't know. It's like a ton of pages of suggestions, and so you kind of have to filter through ones that. And I think that's actually a good thing. If you see something coming up over and over and over and over again, then that's kind of a good clue that like maybe we should look into this.
And so your game is in the open world survival genre, which is a pretty emergent genre in especially on
Yeah.
PC. How do you
Yeah.
feel about the competition? Like,
Well, it's kind of funny because we actually never marketed Salt or even mentioned anything about it being a survival game when we
Right.
released it. Um, we didn't have any. I mean, it had elements of that, but we kind of more focused on the exploration, RPG, and adventure elements. And I think due to the setting, due to the fact that there's a food bar and that you wake up kind of stranded on an island, I think it kind of comes to mind. Oh, this is a survival game, and so it gets lumped in with other survival games. But I think the fact that we haven't focused so much on survival has actually helped us stand out. I
Right.
think a lot of players will go, "Oh, this is actually more of a light survival game," and there's a lot more like there's quests and there's legendary and epic items and stats on things. I think like, it's more RPG exploration focused, so that's
I, I
helped us stand out.
I'm gonna admit that after talking to you, I'm more interested in the game because it's more RPG than survival. Because I'm not such a
Yeah,
huge survival fan.
yeah,
I feel
I'm
a
not
bit.
really.
I feel it's a bit punishing.
Yeah, we actually thought because we have a lot of players who love survival, so we're actually thought about making a survival mode that you can, if you want
Oh,
to, you could start like a whole new game with that.
so it's
Where
like a hardcore get good mode.
yeah, like right now, if you run out of hunger, you won't actually die. Your stamina bar will regenerate really slowly, things like that.
Uh,
But we could do an actual survival mode where you would die, where you can't swim forever, things like that. For players that like that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, we love RPG and exploration elements, so we put a lot of focus into that aspect of it. There's bosses in the game and you
nice.
know things like that.
Far Cry Primal just added that in actually the survival mode. It's
Oh,
basically
did
a
it?
hard yeah, it's basically a hardcore mode where
Yeah.
resources are super limited and you can die and there's permadeath or something as well.
Fallout 4 just added it too for at least for the
Right,
PS4
right, yeah,
version.
they did.
And I've
Survival
been
is a thing these days.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it didn't fizzle out because
Right.
it's been a few years now, and it's a little. I think the market's probably getting a little oversaturated. But even
Mm,
these newer survival games are really popular. So, but there hasn't been a lot of AAA release survival games. It's been mostly in the indie realm, it seems.
yeah.
At least from what I've noticed.
Yeah. A couple of companies have backed.
Yeah,
I think Sony has backed one. I can't remember which one. H1Z1, I think. I'm not too
yeah,
sure.
yeah. But
Right.
yeah, H1Z1 will be the first. That's like the I guess AAA
Triple
DayZ
A.
version.
But it's funny these days that indie don't really mean what it's supposed to mean anymore.
Yeah.
Like indie used to mean independent of a publisher, and
Mm.
these days there are indie publishers, which is totally fine. If you don't
Oh yeah.
have control over the creative side of things, I think it's still fine. But there are games like by Ubisoft and like H1Z1 by Sony is it has like the indie tag on Steam, which is just weird.
Yeah, that is kind of weird because it's like, yeah, that's or now that's is that I wonder if is that taken over by Daybreak now since
I'm
they
not
took
sure.
over because I don't know if that was being done by Sony Online or not, but anyway, yeah, we never really called ourselves I mean we're definitely like three guys and we don't have a publisher or anything like that, but I think sometimes you know I think sometimes a lot of players probably don't realize that there's only three of us working on a game because they just
Yeah,
see open world game and think, oh, this must be a big team, but sometimes they're not.
yeah. So I think the procedural generation kind of fooled them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that it helps. That I mean, it certainly doesn't substitute good content, but it allows you as a if you're a small team, I think procedural generation allows you to focus more on adding content versus level design. Because level design can take forever. So procedural generation, if you can set your system up well, then that'll kind of do the level design for you, and you can add content for players' experience.
Um, so since it's a open world exploration procedure
Mm.
generated game, have you seen things that you didn't think was possible in your game happen because of players?
Yeah, all the time. It's so funny that I mean, players will always do more than you think is possible. They will always
Right.
find ways to push, break, and uh, you know, do things you never. I mean, I've seen. There's a guy who has like 3,500 hours in it,
Oh,
which I just can't even imagine. Like
what?
I get bored,
Yeah.
and like I make the game, but yeah, and he has like 500,000 gold and things like that.
Jeez.
But yeah, but we've seen a lot of players find things that we didn't know were in the game. Like especially with like we had this one new ship modeled, and it has like you can't actually get up in it, but it's like a little crow's nest just for looks. But players figured out a way to mess with the physics so they could actually get up in there, and so there's things like that, and like we make these wall mounts that you can use to decorate your ship. So you can put a little weapon mount on them, and players figured out they could actually put those on top of each other and over again and make steps, like stairs, basically. So I've seen ships with just hundreds of these wall mounts making staircases around. So there's things like that the that was never intended, but I mean we welcome that kind of stuff.
Right. Um. Ooh. So yeah. When did you guys start marketing it? How did you market this game when you release it on early access?
Yeah, that was a hard because some things get so generic. If you just say open world survival game, like a
Right.
lot of things pop in your head. And so we've kind of marketed it as sort of the ocean element is sort of a little more unique, the high seas, and adventure and exploration aspect. And we've kind of tried to market it as, you can do what you want. Like you just literally can pick a direction and go forever if you want to. And you can play however you want to play. Like you're not forced to do anything. You can set your own pace. And so I think that freedom is something that's always attracted me to games like the Elder Scrolls games and things like that. And so I think that perspective is something we try to kind of use when we're marketing the game. Is that sort of that you just drop you in this world and you can just go experience it, and it's not some harsh environment or anything. It's more like an RPG side of things. So
What channels did you use? Like, did you send a bunch of press releases to like big
yeah,
media outlets and stuff?
yeah. Well, we actually the one of the two of the bigger things that helped us early on. Actually, we released on our website about a little over a month before it got on early access. You could actually get the game through our website,
Oh,
and
right.
we had some Twitch streamers pick it up and play it, smaller streamers, and then we had a YouTuber who's named Paul Soares, and he does a lot of Minecraft videos, very popular, and he has like over 1 million subscribers, and he did the game, and
Nice.
we never sent him a key or anything, and then before we even got on Steam, Rock Paper Shotgun posted an article on it, which surprised us, and so that kind of helped. But yeah, we sent keys out to people and Reddit and things like that. But Steam kind of markets your game for you in a lot of ways.
Right.
They
So,
recommend your game to people and stuff. So
do you have any advice out there for like new guys, or even not new
yeah,
guys, like veterans?
yeah. Well, I think marketing is really important. I think, but it's not. I think you have to understand. You have to understand what makes your game unique, and you have to figure out, who's interested in this type of game, and then go and try to reach those people. But I think your biggest return is going to be on YouTube, Twitch, and articles and things like that. And also getting on Steam if you can makes a big difference. Um, whether people think that's good or bad right now, Steam really dominates the market.
Yeah. So you're not on any other platform like Origins or GOG and stuff like that, right?
No, you can buy through Humble Bundle, but you just get a Steam
Right,
key.
Steam key.
Yeah,
Right.
so yeah, right now we're exclusively Steam.
I think GOG is starting their own early access kind of program,
Yeah,
but they're
I
handpicking. They're handpicking the games, so
yeah,
it's
I
not like
really
random,
like
right?
I like GOG. I think that's the same company that did The Witcher, right?
Yeah, their parent company is the one. Yeah, pretty
Right.
much CD Project. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I really like what they're doing, and they seem to be growing in popularity. So that's something we'll
Mm.
consider in the future is looking
Oh
to get
yeah,
on a platform like that because I really like their platform. It looks nice.
nice. Would you consider bundles?
We haven't really given it a lot of thought. I just like I said, we've never really given it a lot of thought. I think selling it individually has done well, but I think that is something to consider. I just haven't looked into it and the pros and cons and things like that.
I think I would say the number one con would be not say con, but I think the number one mistake would be developers doing it too early,
Yeah,
and then they'll be then players will be expecting it to be in a bundle or really cheap, and they won't buy it like
yeah,
individually.
that's very true. I think we probably want to wait. I think once we get the game fully released, then there's some more options we can
Mm.
look at there.
Yeah, but even these days, like I got a couple of games on early access from bundles. Like, I'm
Mm.
not sure why they even. Maybe they just needed the sales to cover the cost or something.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely get more sales at
Yeah, oh yeah.
discounted rates, but yeah, Steam's worked really well for us. We just and you know our I think our goal for early access is just to get funded to be able to release the game, and I think we're there. So we're not too concerned with doing bundles and stuff until we actually release. Then we'll put more effort into the marketing aspects.
Right. And last question, and I'll let you go. What's your
Sure.
roadmap looking like?
So our next, we're about to push an update out this week, or at least push it to testing branch, and if there's no like major snags, it'll go out official. That update is there's a new pirate island, so this will be kind of like an in-game type pirate island. It'll have a lot of new pirates that are really tough, things like that. Then the next few weeks, we're going to finish up the main story quests, and then, well, two of us are getting married, so there'll be
Oh,
like,
nice.
yeah, so there'll be like a week or two there where we're busy, but then we're going to jump into multiplayer implementation. That's going to be a big
Right.
hurdle this year. Um,
Oh, so there's currently no multiplayer.
no, there's not multiplayer currently. That's a really requested feature, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So
What will be the player interaction in multiplayer? Well, I mean, what in terms of like your goals? I mean, what are your
yeah,
goals with player interaction in multiplayer?
well,
Just
there's
PvP, strictly PvP,
no. It'll be more. Well, I
co-op.
would like. Yeah, I'm thinking of it more in terms of co-op, but I would like you to
Nice.
be. I would like you to be able to do PvP if you
PvP.
want to. So,
Mm.
like, what we were thinking is kind of like Minecraft did, where players create their own servers.
Ah,
Like
right.
we probably won't be running dedicated servers or anything like that.
Yeah,
We'll
it's just
just
too
let
costly to run, I believe.
Yeah, we'll just let players create their own, and they can basically do whatever they want. If they want to make it PvP, they can do that, or if they can, So it's kind of like you can just hop on with some friends. But if you wanted to, you could run your own server and let players join and do PvP battles. Or so there's a lot of design work that'll come with that. We'll have to figure out how to handle. Do players share loot? Can they trade? If they kill
Yeah.
each other, do they get their loot? Or there's a lot of thought. So we're going to be working on that for a while, and we'll be doing smaller updates during that process because that's probably going to take a while. That could take 3, 4, maybe 6 months to do multiplayer. So we want
Oh,
to do some little
it's
updates in between.
huge
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, because we gotta go back and fix a lot of stuff in the game and figure out how to. It's just the first time we've ever done it. It'll be a learning process, but we're
Hmm.
pretty excited about it. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Do you guys have a target release date, or do you guys just feel like
Yeah,
nah, I'm not gonna tell people?
that's hard because like there's no way we could like right now that we could set like a specific day. But I think the goal is to finish multiplayer toward the end of this year.
Right.
Hopefully, as soon as we can finish multiplayer, the sooner the better. And then after that, we want to take care of some of the more like meta stuff, like Steam achievements, cloud
Hmm.
saving, all that stuff that kind of
Hmm.
needs to be done. Um, and then I think we'll be pretty ready to release. And I think we're still going to add some updates even after release. Like I think we're going to release the game when we feel like it's at a good state where you get a lot of hours and all that, and that it plays well. And then we'll probably still do some updates even after release. We'd like to basically add in multiplayer right now, and I think we'd like to add in the ability to build some sort of little house or something on islands or something. Um, and after that, it's pretty close to release. So hopefully, if multiplayer goes well, maybe towards the end of this year or early next year would be a goal for us.
It's just so subjective. Like I just find it so hard to judge. Like, is this
Yeah,
an early access game? Like, you guys can release it now and release multiplayer
yeah.
later, because what's that game? What's that Harvest Moon huge game on PC recently?
Oh,
Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley. Yeah, Stardew
Like
Valley.
it's not in early access anymore. It's a
No.
full game, and then he's releasing like multiplayer. So I don't even know where to begin to say like this game is early access, this game is not, this game is incomplete.
Yeah, I think
So
that is kind of
subjective.
it. It is really subjective. I think it's beneficial for us to have multiplayer so that when before we officially release, so that when we officially release, all the people who see the game will, because we'll see that it has multiplayer and hopefully be more likely to get it because that's
Right.
just a
Just has more stuff basically.
yeah. I think multiplayer is almost a necessity in a lot of ways
Mm,
these days. It's really requested. all the time. So it became pretty clear early on we needed to do that.
Right. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me, Will.
Yeah, man, I
It's
had
been
fun.
fun. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so you guys can check out Salt on Steam, and there's also saltthegame.com. Do you guys have a Twitter for the game or for the studio?
Yeah, it's twitter.com/lavaboots studio.
Right. Do you have a personal Twitter that you want people to follow you on?
Yeah, they can if they want to. My Twitter is the Will Sterling.
The Will Sterling. There's only
Yeah,
one Will Sterling, please, people.
Will Sterling. The actual Will Sterling tag is taken, so
All right.
I had to be egocentric and do the Will Sterling. So
I like it when like ordinary people is like the real, like, yeah, the
yeah,
real.
the real. It's,
And I see
it's
you're
like
very active on the Reddits as well. Like, which
yeah.
subreddit are you super active on?
Our salt subreddit is called Project Salt.
Project Salt, right?
Yeah, yeah. There was
You
already
also
a salt
you also post
subreddit.
regularly on our game dev. I think that's where we talked, I believe.
Yeah, I posted. Yeah, I posted something on there. I've posted
Right.
on the procedural generation. Been in various ones, various
Mm,
subreddits posted on. But yeah, I try to we try to post on game dev. I mean, I love the game dev subreddit. There's just
nice,
some super helpful stuff there, so we frequent that a good bit.
nice. So yeah, check out Salt if you like open world survival action crafting RPG.
Yeah,
That's a
there you go. It's a
mouthful.
mouthful. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We will see you next time. Bye bye.